You're listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast with Angela Henderson, episode 91. Hey there, you're listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast. My name is Angela Henderson, and on this show, we talk about improving your business, life, or both by having amazing and rich conversations with brilliant guests who will inspire you and who will give you tips and tricks to help you grow both in life and in business. Well, hey there, and welcome back to another awesome episode of the Business and Life Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ange, from Angela Henderson Consulting, where I am a business consultant and coach who has helped hundreds of amazing women business owners get all the pieces in place to have consistent 5-figure months and then on to 6-figure years without burning out in the process. Now, let's be honest, like really, totally honest. Most of us, including myself when I first started out, are currently trying to do a million things to get our business to work. A million ideas are floating around, a million different offerings we're throwing out there, but yet business is feeling hard. You're stuck. And you equally are wondering why the hell is everyone around me moving forward and I'm over here doing all this shit and getting absolutely nowhere. I was like this about 24 to 32 months ago, still new in the business consulting coaching business. You see, running my first business was an e-commerce business. And when I did the move to Angela Henderson Consulting, it's a service-based business. Offerings were very, very different about how I was selling. I was stuck in the hustle that all the big gurus were feeding to me. And then I read somewhere or heard from someone, I can't even remember what it was. You're doing too much. You're spreading yourself thin. Just focus on the power of one. And I was like, damn, the power of one, what does that mean? And from that point on, even to the point of last year, my word of the year was refine. I refined my one-to-one coaching program. I refined my group coaching program, Profit Pillars. I refined my Australia's leading 4-day, 3-night women in business retreat. Why did I do this? Because less is more. The power of less is just that, power, momentum, the momentum you gain in your business because you are focusing on the power of one. You equally have less to worry about when you focus on the power of one. But focusing on the power of one, it also allowed me and equally will allow you to focus on more of what's important for the ROI and natural growth of your business, but also what's important for yourself, your family, your community, and even the bigger impact that you want to make by having your own business. Now, you might be thinking, Ange has lost her effing mind. One simple word? No, I haven't. You see, as a business owner of not one, but 2 successful businesses, and let's be honest, being diagnosed with ADHD in there, I totally understand that your mind is always coming up with new things, new ideas. I get it. If anyone gets it, I get it. But what I realize is that I don't have to do all. And the reality is I don't want to do all. I'm tired, exhausted, drained. So today I'm excited to bring on the amazing Amanda Daley to get into a deep conversation with me about the power of doing one thing well and really well. In today's episode, we're going to dive deep into the power of doing one thing well. What are the benefits of doing one thing well? What will likely happen if you choose not to do the power of one? And what you can do now to start making that shift to doing the power of one and being able to grow that sustainable and profitable business you are wanting. But before we hop into this amazing episode, I'd like to remind you that if you enjoy this episode, I would love for you to share your key takeaway, a fun fact, or anything really that you'd love to share about the podcast over on your Instagram stories. And please tag me at Angela Henderson Consulting because you would put a smile on my dial. Also, this episode is sponsored by my 12-month group coaching program, Profit Pillars, which helps women in business create consistent 5-figure plus months. My 12-month group coaching program is for women business owners who are ready to take action to grow a sustainable and profitable business. The program includes so much level of awesomeness, such as, but not limited to, a wonderful community, being able to get you the results and growth that you need to have those consistent 5-figure months, being able not to have to be lonely anymore in your business because of the community that you have to bounce ideas off of, and equally to decrease that overwhelm that you have. But you will also be able to get the amazing Profit Pillar training system, complete with videos, PDF guides, and more, live strategy sessions, live hot seat sessions, monthly masterminds with guest experts, 24 access to our amazing private Facebook community, and so much more. To learn about my 12-month group coaching program, you can head to angelahenderson.com.au and simply click under the How I Can Help section on creating 5-figure months. Now, let's hop on to today's amazing episode. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Thank you. So great to be here.
It is fun to have you here. Now, for those that don't know, we have already been waffling on for an hour and 15 minutes because the thing here is Amanda and I actually first met a couple of years ago at a conference where I actually was just an attendee and I'd actually paid for the mastermind. And actually, that's how Amanda's and ours friendship began, is she helped me out in a mastermind session, which is cool. And over the last couple of years, we've just, stayed in contact and reached out to each other. But I was thinking before you came on the podcast today is that we actually haven't talked since that, Rich, like that actual conference. Like we've spoken written language to each other.
Yeah.
And I guess what I find it funny is like, you would never have thought that Amanda and I hadn't actually spoken in the 2 years that we've seen each other. Like we've literally just talked each other's ear off in the hour and 15 minutes. So again, I say this over and over and over again on the podcast, but the importance of networking. It is vital for your business. It is vital for your personal growth. We're just talking about the level of loneliness that you have as a startup, and then equally as you kind of scale your business. So anyways, it's good to have you here today, Amanda. And the power of the internet and the power of good relationships. So yes.
Absolutely. I'm so delighted. And I agree. We could have talked for hours.
We could have kept going. And I was like, yeah,
we'll be more regular.
Yeah, we'll just have to go co-working, as we said. So now listen, at time of recording, you have just finished a major launch. And whenever there is a major launch, anyone who's ever launched anything, there's a level of tired. So how are you feeling? You feeling all right after the launch?
You know what? I'm feeling the best I have after a launch. I've certainly had a few tired days this week, but yeah, I take my self-care pretty seriously. It's not perfect, but I've definitely learned to better manage that.
Dude, fantastic. Because launching, it's good. There's always pros and cons, but and we will talk a little bit later about, burnout. But today we are talking about the power of the power of doing one thing and doing it well. But before we hop into the episode, I always like to ask a little fun question to the guests that I'm interviewing, because I think it's important that they get to know a little bit about you before we get into all the nitty-gritty business stuff. So I know you love to travel, Amanda. You travel around the world. You've been to Necker Island. You've been to South Africa, I've seen, and you've been to a variety of other places. So what is your all-time favorite country and why?
Oh, that's a hard one as far as top country, but I will say my trip to South Africa, end of 2018, is my highlight right now as far as trip, for sure.
Yeah, and what was it about that you're like, what was the highlight that kind of, even just now talking about it, sticks with you the most?
Oh gosh, everything. I mean, we ended up there by kind of default as part of a mastermind that was meant to do a trip to Necker Island in 2017. And the hurricane wiped the island out a few weeks before we went. So long story short, we ended up having a few days in Richard Branson's private safari retreat in South Africa. And I just think, South Africa itself, there was just something magical seeing all that, like the private safari, we saw like all the animals, very, very surreal. And then just in particular, I had some conversations with Richard Branson there around the campfire, which truly changed my trajectory and my beliefs around supporting health coaches at like such a deeper level than I even had before. And there was just some real powerful moments, as well as, honestly, we started talking about being around like friends and entrepreneurs, and some of the best friendships and conversations that I've had in the industry were held on there.
And again, the power of investing in yourself too. Like, I know my question's about what's your favorite country, but when you invest, I believe that the transformation doesn't occur until the transaction has happened. And I see it often and often. And for those of you that are listening, like I say, start off small, go to a local network, even if it's free, but then start paying $25 for a ticket, $10 for a ticket, start going to these events, because it's vital. Like you said, those conversations around the campfire the post relationships. When things get really shitty in a business, you can reach out to these people. It is so, so powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, tell me about your business journey. Where did it start and where are you now?
Yeah, where did it start? Well, I mean, I've been in online advertising marketing my whole career. My first job was actually in the startup team of eBay in the UK back in, what was that, 2000, 2001, somewhere around there, a long time ago.
Yep.
So let's not count. So yeah, look, I have been in the industry per se, but always as an employee, and loved my job, worked my way up through corporate advertising, working for a lot of the big agencies in Sydney, most recently. But honestly, as I kind of I struggled with my health through my 20s, but definitely once I got into my 30s, I was burning out. And I was spending every cent that I was making in advertising, like out trying to fix myself, trying to heal myself, because my energy system wouldn't keep up. I was so exhausted. I felt like I wasn't keeping up, and the industry demanded that too, all-nighters and long weekends and everything. So it was a bit of a dual life I was living, off doing healing. Then I became the healer, and then I did the yoga teaching, and I was just living and breathing it. And it did change my life to a degree, but I was still kind of stuck in that system. And I never once even dreamed that I would work for myself. I don't even understand the concept.
Yep.
And then along came health coaching. I met someone that was a health coach working from our home in Bondi Beach, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And really, in hindsight, quite naively, just out of desperation, if I needed to get out of that corporate world, took the leap. I was like, I'm going to be a health coach. I mean, you just got to make a website, right? And that'll be great. So it was not that easy. It was very, very hard, actually. I kind of played the entrepreneur game for a while. I went to all the conferences in the US and lived in Venice Beach and all the raw food and everything that hadn't even come to Australia then. So fun. But I had not got a client in my first 9 months. I hadn't made a cent. And honestly, I had no idea how, even with all that background in marketing and online business. So honestly, like you said before, I started investing. I started doing what I could to get contract work, et cetera, to get in the best mentorship I could get. And I got my business up and running. And then, everyone's saying, Amanda, come on, you're really good at online business. It was just really about putting yourself out there. You've got to teach everyone this. And I was like, no. For a couple of years, no way. Even people were signing up to be health coaching clients because they wanted my business advice. And I was disgusted by the idea because I blamed it for my burnout.
Yes.
But hey, one thing led to another. Sitting in Golden Gate Park in San Fran one day, actually, it was just like this, oh, I see kind of moment. Because I just wanted to get health coaching out there, Ange. I just wanted women to experience their full of self and break out of the shackles, really, is what I was all about. I'm so curious always of what else is possible. What are the possibilities here? And that's all I wanted to do. And it took me a while to realize I could actually help hundreds, thousands of other people to do this and make it a real thing in the world. Yeah.
Dude, how amazing that. And you, again, what we were talking about before we recorded is obviously the power of doing one thing well. And you have one product and you do that product exceptionally well. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And so, there is something to be said about doing the power of one thing, but doing it really well. And because I think this is a topic that doesn't get talked about enough, and it really should, because as I talked about in my introduction, is that everyone's trying to do everything. And as far as many businesses are going, it's you're not going to get that traction you need if you keep trying to throw basically kind of spaghetti at a wall. It's not going to, do you know what I mean? It's really not going to work. And that's why I wanted to bring you on today to talk about the power of doing one thing and doing it really well, because your entire business is off of this one core product. And so when we're talking today about doing one thing and doing it really well, I'm not talking about writing one blog article. I'm not talking about, making one podcast. I mean, that can still apply. But what I'm talking about is choosing one core product or starting with one core product, really building that up, and then maybe bringing on a second one or a third one, but really focusing on that power of one and giving it the attention and kind of nurturing it the way it needs to. I'll also add to that as a business coach for women, I found that there are 3 core stages, Amanda. And again, I'd love to hear what you kind of thoughts are about this. Is you've got that kind of survival stage, you've got the growth stage, and you've got the scale phase.
Mm.
And for many of you in that survival stage right now, and even that growth stage, as I said before just a minute ago, it's kind of like throwing that spaghetti at the wall, hoping that something sticks. Like, I just need to survive. I need to know like that I can put, a roof over my head. And I get that you have to pay your bills and make money, but more doesn't always mean better. And again, we'll chat more about that later on. But again, would you agree, like in that kind of survival stage, you're just doing whatever you can to just kind of make it happen?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I'm all about health. What that's doing to your nervous system and everything puts us in overwhelm, puts us in like self-doubt. And we're just kind of going crazy when we don't need to be.
And for you and your own business journey, what was that aha moment when doing less was better?
I think the aha moment came from looking at the facts. And what I mean by facts was actually time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like any entrepreneur. I've got 1,000,001 ideas and plenty of them drafted in my Dropbox. And, I have ideas all the time. But the reality is when you look at, like, say, your yearly calendar, there's only actually so much time that you do have to promote.
100%. Yep.
And really it came from the facts. And, delivery is my highest value as well. So, a lot of people focus more on marketing or whatever that might be, but nothing to me trumps the delivery of my program. Mm-hmm. So you've got to allow time in your calendar, not just for promoting that program, but delivering it really well, crafting it, continuing to keep it up to date. And there's actually not that much time in a year. That was the thing that kind of in some ways forced me to stick with one product.
And I would also tap into that kind of the last little while too, is that, and what I say to my own clients is that really that you have to be looking at, in order to really look at the power of one, in my opinion, is your time and the ROI that's coming on the back of that, right? And so utilizing a tool like Toggle, for example, and then putting into Toggle every single day what activities you're doing and how much time you're spending on it. And then the next steps looking at, well, what are the financial numbers saying for each of these kind of monetary streams of income coming in, has been vital to my own business growth. Because I think we assume that, we didn't really spend that much time doing that or going here or hopping on those calls. But one of my biggest aha moments just recently, by looking at my time and the ROI, is that one of my core values is that human connectiveness. And I really believe in being the person who hops on the discovery calls. But what I found is I can still be human to human, but my time, if I ever want to grow the business, I can't keep being the person doing the 30 to 40 minute discovery calls. But what I can do is I can hop on once we kind of know a little bit more, and I can then hop on for a 10 to 15 minute call. Because again, if not, I'm just spending all my time on these phone calls, which is fine. And I've enjoyed it up to now, and it's allowed me to assess my business. But if I want to get to the next level, the reality of it is, based on what Toggle and my time is saying, and my, financial numbers are saying, is I will need to bring on a salesperson, and then, look at our process and procedures to still implement me in there, but not for as much as what I've been doing.
Yeah.
And it's just,
facts.
Yeah, again, exactly right. But so many of us, again, even when I first started, right, is that that's not what we're looking at. We're just looking for that next sale, because again, we need, we need to survive, right? So, but again, I think this particular episode, I believe, is going to be important, because some of you are there, but again, Amanda and I are just going to plant that seed. And again, you've been given that seed and this information, so that when that time comes, you guys are going to be farther along and quicker to be able to adapt and do what you need to do. Whereas people who don't have this conversation. So my next question that I want to have for you, Amanda, and kind of look at more, is, what do you feel are the core benefits that business owners will see when they start to focus on the power of doing one service really well, one program really well, before they kind of scale into a million different things? Yeah, so those core benefits.
Look, I think the simple answer to that is results. If we just start really basic, most people are trying one thing really quickly and then deciding it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And that might be as simple as, I put a Facebook Live out and I didn't get a sale, so it didn't work. Instead of sticking with a Facebook Live strategy, for example, for, a decent amount of time. So to start with, it does, we learn all these marketing business concepts, but most of them take time, and they take time to master. Mm-hmm. So then you can come into, for me, I find that, say, my marketing has become very magnetic, because I've crafted one niche. I know my ideal client inside and out. And you know what? I've known that for years, but I still continue to master and craft the wording, the true connection, with that person. And I do find, of course, that's when you make the click in business, when people are like, oh, it's like you're talking to me. That's not kind of like crafted in a like a salesy way. It just becomes genuine when you give it that time and space to master it, to embody it in yourself. And it doesn't be salesy anymore. It's just like, yeah, this is the way it is.
And like you said, it just becomes almost that ingrainedness, right? Is it's just like it flows, it's magnetic, people understand it. And it just also, again, everything else is a knock-on effect from that. So so just to kind of recap there, is your main reason, or one of the core benefits that you have seen, is ultimately, again, not only the results, but how that, again, collectively your messaging gets clearer. And then again, obviously you've got that conversion on the other end.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons too, then you get known as an expert in one thing and you feel like an expert in that one thing. So, it goes both ways in there. And even just, so many reasons. But yeah, to me, that stands out as well.
I also know for myself, a core benefit, when I've done is when my clients and when they kind of do this, is that you can also reduce, one of the benefits is reducing the overwhelm of your audience, right? And what I mean by that is, 1 week someone's doing a launch on social media, and the next week that same person is doing a launch about Pinterest, and the next week that person's doing a launch on how to do a podcast, and the next week they're doing a launch on this. And it's kind of like your audience is so overwhelmed because you're launching every single week to start with. But the second thing is you're launching so many different types of topics, right? And they just kind of go, what else? And so there's twofold there. You're not becoming the expert, and they don't really then know should they do that. And two, you're just like, it's just like mass, all levels of crazy, right? So when you do this, the other problem there is with that overwhelm, then they don't buy anything, because they just feel like they're just getting thrown at. So when you focus on the power of doing one thing well and doing it really well, is that, again, you're going to decrease that overwhelm of your audience. You're going to be able to become that kind of expert known in that. And again, that will lead to that, as you talked about, the benefits, that results.
Absolutely.
What have you seen in the coaching of health coaches specifically when they don't focus on the power of doing one thing well?
Look, what I really see, to tag team off what I just said, I guess, is what I see in particular is people giving up, people deciding it's not working for me, self-esteem, confidence going down, because instead of like sticking with one system and allowing that time, it is this culture we're in, like fast food culture, right? We want overnight success. And so people are on and off and trying this and on and off. And a client just this week in my group said, well, I've got some space right now. Should I focus on this or this or this or this or this? It's like, how about we just go back to your social media and master that one system first? And then, of course, there's lots more we can do. But, it's just the divided time too. None of us can split our attention across 50 things. So that's what I see mostly. But on top of that, burnout, overwhelm, getting so scattered in our head and then convincing ourselves we don't know what to do. And one thing with coaches in particular that I see is, I want to go to like a group program and I want to have the online product and I want to have all of these. And most of the time I teach, stick with your one-on-one coaching and master that, because they tell me they want money, but actually they start copying what they see online, right?
Yes, 100%.
You don't have an audience yet. The e-course isn't going to sell, So, just to bring that back more tangibly, what I coach people on, for 9 out of 10 people anyway, is to master your one-on-one coaching and the system that it takes. I'm a big believer, in one system, mastering the one system. So get the one-on-one working, get that until you've got it, fully booked, then up your price, then up your time scale. There's so much we can do if you master one system first, and then we can expand.
100%. And also one-to-one also allows you how much, before you go spending tens of thousands on websites and blog creation or content creation, all this is those one-to-ones. If you're able to start booking, bums on seats and getting discovery calls and collating those testimonials, whatever, you're also validating your the business as you go, right? Whereas so many people I see, they're dropping all this money, have no system, again, throwing spaghetti out there, but they don't know who their messaging is. They're focusing on, the power of fucking 9 million, right? And then what's happening is like, again, they haven't even validated product. Whereas one-to-one, it allows you to assess and pivot after every single session. Oh, I could do that better. Oh, I could tighten this better. And I agree. I started off by doing one-to-one. And by far it was low risk, but potential high gain, right? I didn't have a community. I was throwing things out there and it worked. So I love that, again, just going in and focusing on the one-to-one, not to mention the community aspect. I mean, we've done launches plenty of times, Amanda, and we know you're lucky if 1%, 2% of people convert.
Yeah.
So, just give those listeners out there as an example is if you want to sell 50 spots on your program, you predominantly should have an email list of about 5,000 minimum, because 1% of 5,000 is that 50. So you need to really be, as Amanda's saying, you need to have community in order to sell. And I see so many of my own clients when they first come to me wanting to do programs and stuff. And you're like, no, let's just go back to the basics here. Can you offer to one-to-ones? What is that going to look like? But because they're being told and they see it online all the time, make money, sleep and make money while doing an evergreen. Like you said, if you don't have community, you're going to be screwed.
Totally.
Yeah. 100%. Another example that I thought there was interesting, if we just go back a little bit about the time essence, right? And just really go looking at like what your own clients are looking at too. I'm assuming, Amanda, I was just on a call with one of my one-to-one clients the other day, and one of her main goals for this year is to hit a particular revenue. And so I said to her, great. I said, well, how are you going to do that? And so again, I did this deliberately. I was walking through with her and she's like, okay, well, I could do this. And I said, that's great. I said, but let's be more specific. How many actual bookings will you need in order to make that amount of money? And she's like, okay. So we went through, and by the time I got to like the seventh thing, she goes, do I have to do anything else to get to 250,000? Yeah. And I just giggled and I said, this is the whole point of this exercise, right? Is you've now had the aha moment going, I shouldn't have to work this hard, right? And try and have 7 different things going. She's like, and so I was like, exactly. I said, let's focus on the ones that aren't going to cause you as much time and bring in the biggest ROI, and then we can double down. She's like, that's why I pay you, right? But again, until you write that information down, Amanda, and really assess what that looks like, that is going to lead to that potential, as we just talked about, is when they don't focus on it, like even talking to her, you could feel the overwhelm starting to come over her, the panic, right? Because she's like, there's not enough hours. How am I going to do this? But when we started to simplify it into the power of one, everything else just became easy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, for those listeners out there that are going, holy shit, Batman, you've just defined what I'm doing in my business. What do you recommend for businesses to go and do, from running around like a headless chicken, okay, to being able to step into the power of doing one thing and doing it well?
Yeah, look, I recommend find one system that is either a proven system in your industry or that resonates with you, whether that's purchasing a business coach and one system, like I have my system for health coaches, and has her systems, for example, or make up your own system. I don't really mind how that happens, but choose one that's proven and stick with it. Yeah. And master it. And, all of us are subject. We were laughing about this before, and like the little products we fall for online and things, but when we do that, we get distracted and we keep thinking the answer is going to be in someone else's freebie out there or something like that. Invest in one system, or decide on your own one system, and keep doing it over and over again. Mm-hmm. That is honestly, that could take years, to really master that one system. And sure, someone else has probably got a system that they say works too, etc. But you'll never know unless you really commit to that one system.
And I think it's kind of like if you look at, top athletes, right? Or even people who are just going to the gym. Those athletes aren't an athlete most of them aren't. There's always the rare person, kind of like Michael Jordan, but most athletes are choosing one thing and they do it well, right? Yeah. So they are either, a basketball player, they either a ballerina, they're either this, but they're not typically a ballerina and a hip hop and a tap and a whatever. They've chosen one and they've had to do it well. And I kind of like the analogy I use is like, the repetitiveness with your muscle, right? If you keep doing the same thing over and over, you're going to build the strength in it. You're going to build the endurance. You're going to have the power behind it. And so I look at startups and owning your own business as the same thing. Choose the one system, choose the people to work with, use it and do it well, and then assess and move on if you need to. But if you keep doing that repetitiveness, it will start to move you forward.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how much of this, though, from the power of doing one thing, comes from mindset?
Oh, that's like a good question. I personally, and it's a little controversial maybe when I say this, I personally feel that 80% of my business success has been mindset work.
My friend, I say this all the time. It will be no news to those who've been listening. I 100% agree. 80 to 90% is mindset. Yeah. That other 10 to 20 is strategy.
But the reason that I kind of say, that laugh, that awkwardness is because the 10 to 20% is the 100% if you don't have that first. So you do need that one plan. You do need to stick with it. Mm-hmm. And then the mindset work comes in a lot of it, like believing. Mm-hmm. Identity change in yourself, tweak it. Like there's so much mindset work that goes in, but it doesn't work without that 10, 20% first. That's the caveat.
And I know like Lisa Corduff, she's a good friend of mine, and she talks a lot about growth mindset just for women collectively, but also, for women in business. And, she just says that every year you can write your New Year resolutions, right? And they do, and you ask yourself over and over, why can I never nail these? And the reality of it is, until you start changing some of those beliefs and some of those stories and stop sabotaging, things in life and in business, that cycle is just going to keep repeating. So it's good to hear that I'm not alone here on this, Amanda, and that, again, the importance of doing one thing and doing well is, again, that mindset is, it's imperative.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind even applying that one thing to mindset, by the way, because we all have a million different mindsets that we can start going, oh my God, I need to fix this. I need to fix this, that kind of mentality. Mm-hmm. And you talked about like a high performer or a sports, sports athlete. Yep. And there was a year in my business where I went from 35,000 to 350,000 in revenue in 1 year. Mm-hmm. And what I focused on, my one thing that year, was money mindset. Mm-hmm. And my coach at the time said to me, an Olympic athlete they're not born an Olympic athlete.
Exactly right.
They get up at 5 a.m. and swim the cold laps day after day, and they create that success. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing the advice I got at the time, but it was like, if you truly want a millionaire mindset and you truly want to do that extraordinary, then you need to treat it like an Olympic athlete. And I absolutely did that. And I don't just mean like the mantras and the wealth consciousness books. I mean, I did it all, but the deep healing, the internal healing that went with that, I literally chased it down that year.
Mm-hmm. And it has to be that healing from within in order to get what comes out, right? Is so important. And I liked one of the things there that you said, though, Amanda, is that they create their own success. Totally. There's a lot that I find is why is this happening to me? Why isn't this? But I'm like, at the end of the day, if you want it, you're the one responsible in the driver's seat in order to create the success. No one else. And again, by choosing the power of one. And again, I also think there's a level of not only mindset, I mean, discipline comes with mindset, but I just think if we extract discipline in itself, is those successful business owners that I, hang around, you hang around, et cetera, and even those ones that are far more advanced than us, it's the discipline, right? It's the repetitiveness of doing some of the same things over and over. But again, it's that power of one. I know, for example, the last kind of 8 months when I go to America, slightly different story because I do have to eat a lot of ranch when I'm in America. But besides that, I typically, I've been fasting since I stopped eating at 6. And I don't eat again or break that fast till 10 o'clock or onwards. And for me, it's been hard, right? Especially with kids, I'll be like, oh my God, they're eating at 7 o'clock breakfast in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, don't put that in your mouth because it becomes habit, right? But the discipline that I've seen from that has also been a knock-on effect into my business because it has shifted different parts of my brain again, right? So discipline and mindset, I think, again, so important for that overall growth and getting, like you said, one of the core benefits of the power of one, the results that people want, the results of winning an Olympic gold medal, the results of hitting the $1 million, whatever that looks like.
Absolutely. The discipline, I mean, we just come full circle. That's the thing, to actually focus on one when you've got so many ideas. And actually sometimes focusing on one thing can be damn boring, and sometimes the discipline to not kind of burn it down out of creativity or out of, so many patterns, the discipline to actually keep our emotions out of business. And to me, business is the biggest personal development thing. Everyone says that, but it truly, truly is. And to have self-discipline, in that way so that we don't just take all of that out on the business and can stick to one thing.
Yeah, and again, and someone who's literally been diagnosed with ADHD, sometimes that one thing I'm like, this is going to be the death of me. This is going to absolutely be the death of me. But it's like, again, if you want it bad enough, you figure it out, right? Like you just do. So for the power of doing one thing and doing it well, for those that are listening, I would love, for you to either come over into my Facebook group, the Australian Business Cloud, send me a screenshot over on Instagram of what you guys have learned from Amanda and I today. What is one thing that after listening to this, you're like, shit, I've got all of these programs that I'm doing and I need to change things up. What's the one program that you can focus on? What's the one part of your business that needs that attention and nourishing in order to get you to the next level? I would love to know. But before you guys do that, I would also equally love for Amanda, where can people learn more about you or connect with you?
Absolutely. You can, let me just think. Sorry, I was just thinking we would have set up a page for you that I don't have in front of me. It's really, really bad. Look, I think what it is amandajdaley.com/Angela. Let's say it's that. And if it wasn't, I'll change it.
No, that's totally cool. So
that's the best place to go. And then you can just find out about, me from there. Obviously, I'm on Instagram, Amanda Jane Daley, Facebook, all the normal kind of social platforms too.
All right, fantastic. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here today. But one final question. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started in business?
Oh my gosh, that's a really big question. Okay, I fell into that. What do I wish I knew now? That I wish I knew that I was going to make it.
Oh, good.
Can you agree that I have now?
Yep. Wish you knew you could make it. And what would you say for those listeners out there? What's one thing that they could potentially, start feeling that for themselves?
Yeah, I think what I mean by that is people are continually assuming they'll fail and making decisions based on, and I definitely used to, like, what if it doesn't work? What if the money doesn't come? Knowing where my business has got to, if I knew that, then I would just not have mucked around with the self-doubt. I wouldn't have mucked around with the different, like all the things we've talked about today. I just would have got on and done it with that knowing. So how do you do that? I mean, you just have faith. You just believe. There's no point believing it's not going to work. You've got to be all in and believe it is.
Dude, I love it, my friend. And for those of you that are listening out there, before we sign off, just remember that my team and I will also be putting this whole transcription together at angelahenderson.com.au, and we'll have all the links for where you can find Amanda in that particular section of the part of the angelahenderson.com.au. And as I mentioned earlier, if you did enjoy this episode, I would love for you to share it, especially over on Instagram stories and tagging me at Angela Henderson Consulting and also Amanda. And you're just at Amanda J. Daley, Daley. Is that right for your handle?
On Instagram, it's Amanda Jane.
Jane. Okay. Yep. Perfect. So, tag us over on Instagram because, again, I put the smile on our dial. And for the rest of you, don't forget to have a fabulous day. And I look forward to connecting with each and every one of you. And again, next week in another amazing episode of the Business and Life Conversations podcast. Thanks again, Amanda. I really appreciate it. Have a fab day too.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast with Angela Henderson. www.angelahenderson.com.au